The torch is officially passed, and the GOAT shows us why he is the never seen 17. Did we see the greatest cash-in of all time? Daz and I this week will record a middle of the show and talk through our favourites. Summerslam 2025 is in the books and it is an all-time classic. This is the Golden Shovel podcast, your weekly roundup of all things WWE storytelling. Let's get in there. This week, we're back to a two-man booth. Ross is probably currently dancing on the streets of Govan, celebrating a momentous win for the Rangers. So this week, it's myself and Daz holding the fort again after a busy weekend. Daz, how we doing?
Yes, I'm good. I feel like that guy who can't cement a tag team and has just been passed around the division to two-man it recently. But yes, we are going to, 2 men, 3 men, however many, we'll enjoy talking through what was an epic, well, certainly an epic night 2 of SummerSlam.
We'll start by saying that we do thank every single person that joined us live. It was a slog in the end, and
yes,
I will apologise for Saturday night because I did not realise it was an 11 PM start for us.
Yes, it was.
I trudged on at 11:15 thinking I was 2 hours early. The link's going to help us with the two-man booth this week as it's a hell of a long card to get through, and we are ignoring Raw and Smackdown pretty much exclusively to do this. So you'll notice, and Daz and I have top pre-pod, we are going to chop a fair bit back from night 1 because it was solid, but it was a little bit Saturday night mid-event, I think would be fair to say, Daz.
It was too safe. I think it was safe up until the main event. The booking was safe. So
match number 1, Roman and Jay versus Braun and Braun Security with Paul Heyman, of course, at ringside. Now, I think it's officially a Raw match, so it's meant to kick us off with the story. It felt a little bit rushed, Roman Reigns being involved. I think we're all pretty convinced that, hell, saying that, we're all convinced that it was going to be Roman versus Seth, but I guess that's going to be a main event down the line somewhere in the next couple of years. This match was fine. I'm going to be quite quick on it and say that I think Roman and Jay were always winning. I'm pretty sure we were 3-0 last week on the picks. Won this match. I think that's one of the ones. Night 1 with a lot of 3-0s, for what I remember. Roman didn't eat, which is a shame. I'll save talking about the Vision, as I call them, until the main event, because what I'm going to say about them here would link to my thoughts on the main event, so I'm going to hold that back of the post-main event. And just say that, fine, good result. However, Roman's next advertised show is the 29th of November, so it's 4 full months.
Yes.
It's a problem, isn't it?
It definitely is. I think that there was nobody to team with Jay, and whether people like it or not, Roman is still the biggest draw, so I had to find a way to get him in onto their, arguably their second biggest show of the year, probably third for me, but it wouldn't have been SummerSlam if you couldn't have Reigns on the card. Solid match to open it. There was a pretty obvious turn in the way they were booking it to end. The right people go over. Nothing really too much to talk about in that match. It was pretty standard for what we expected at a Roman and Jay. But Roman now disappears into the wilderness, and we'll see what's left for main event Jay. So
that's the biggest question moving forward, and it wasn't really answered last night either. It wasn't. He's kind of floating a bit. You
mentioned Reigns and Rollins, and that might be Mania, but that also transpired on Monday night. Obviously, to write Roman off TV, but I don't really know where any of it's headed, to be honest.
Because it feels like Roman and Rollins. It's one of the matches that doesn't need a world title. It could be a main event on its own. Yeah. However, it feels like it should have the world title because there's enough intrigue there. Because Rollins is the full-time guy who should go over. However, Rollins has always got the upper hand on Roman. Therefore, it's Roman's turn. So maybe it's not for the title. However, I do expect Seth to probably carry the World Heavyweight title until Mania, unless he goes to the other brand and picks up the other title. I expect him to go into Mania as a world champion now. That's how I see it.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a WrestleMania match next year. It could even be the following year. Just
I'm seeing
based on that.
reports today that it's Cody and Reigns booked for Mania again for the trilogy, but I don't think so.
I think that's a mistake.
Me too. I think it should be Punk Rollins.
Yeah.
It probably should be the payoff at WrestleMania. Who it will be on SmackDown, I don't know yet.
Aye. I don't have an issue with Roman versus Cody, but it's one of the ones where the full-time guy needs to go over. But I think Roman needs to win that trilogy feud. So it's a bit... I mean, we can maybe do that as one of our secondary shows in a couple of weeks, and we can start looking ahead to
Mania.
Mania.
The only other thing I've really got to say on that one is the booking is a wee bit questionable, and I don't know what's happening next with Reigns, but they've proven that the only guy they know how to 100% book is Roman Reigns. They've booked his story flawlessly. The entirety of from the beginning of the Bloodline all the way through till now, his story's been booked perfectly. So I'm not concerned. Could
they book a full-time Roman perfectly?
I don't think they'll ever have to be honest.
Well, aye, that's a cop out, and it's aye. And as long as he sells merch all year round, they're not going to care, are they? And he sells tickets to the big shows. You did mention something there. I think, you know what, I'll save it for the end. But you just mentioned it. You've got SummerSlam as the third biggest show of the year. I tend to agree.
Yeah.
However, I was just saying, I think it was the best show of the year, especially night two. I think it tops Mania. It tops Mania for me because of the main event of night two.
I think in terms of entertainment, it's the best show of the year. For me, the best show of the year is still Evolution. It's still the best show of the year in terms of quality.
Fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
The reason we all watch wrestling is to be entertained, and I would agree that night two, from kick-off to end, was an entertaining
100%.
card throughout.
Second match of the night, obviously across both brands, was Charlotte and Alexa. I'll let you do the spiel for this one, but I'll just say that having seen them on Raw again last night, I'm enjoying Charlotte and Alexa's work. It feels as though they're just relaxed and having fun, and it's bringing out elite level storytelling and wrestling from two of the best ever doing it in the women's division. Yeah,
I don't disagree. SmackDown's women's division's been a bugbear for a while. It's nice to see them get the gold because the two of them definitely deserve it. They play so well off each other. You can see that they've cultivated a relationship really quickly in the ring. That out of the ring work is really good as well. The backstage segment again last night was funny. It wasn't too serious. It's the perfect pay to hold the belts. I don't know. I don't think they'll get rid of the belts, but I feel like they need to try and create a division, and it's the right people to hold the titles until such times as you can build a division. It will no doubt end in one way. One will turn on the other. Probably originally booked Charlotte to do it, but she's a little bit over now, so I don't know if they will. But no, the actual match itself, Raquel's been much improved since the whole Kevin Nash stuff.
So
she's really taking it. She's really taking it all on board. Roxanne, you know what you're getting. And we've spoken about it a few times in the pod. I'm a big believer that when they drop the women's tag team titles would be the beginning of the downfall of Judgment Day. And I think we've had a wee bit of a tease into that last 100%. Night again with a backstage segment. So it was the right time for them to part company with the belts. And it went to the right team.
Aye, and I'm going to say once again, as I say, I think every week the podcast in the last few months, we grew up. Because we're a bit old at this point, but I would argue my most intense period of being into wrestling for most of it, Charlotte Flair was just shoved in her throats, and it wasn't her fault. She was head and shoulders above pretty much anyone else in the division at the time. Like Becky was there as a good in-ring worker, but the character wasn't there, and Sasha was the only rival. So to Charlotte, really, Bayley hadn't been called up, so she was shoved in her throats. Not her fault for being better than everybody else, but this character, like as you say, if I'm looking ahead, I think Alexa turns. Probably eventually, maybe Alexa wins a Rumble, maybe she goes to Mania, and then it's to bring them together for that feud that will feed families into SummerSlam next year potentially. I think it's a year out potentially for that match happening. But you could literally make sure if you could make Charlotte the biggest babyface in the women's division, and if you do that, you're just printing money.
They've got a great chance to put her back on top of the mountain, because I think it was now on impossible to get her there for a period of time, because the fans, whether we want to admit it or not, we resent the fact she was shoved down our throats for so long. In the same way that people boo Cena, a lot of the folk boo Cena because he got every opportunity. He got every opportunity because he was the best available. Charlotte's the same, but we resent her for it. So it's nice to see her getting a bit of the respect she deserves.
100%. This is the bit of the show where we're going to really try and skip through it because we've got we're targeting 20 minutes to cover night one. We've got 10 minutes to go, so we've got 2 to 3 minutes for these next 3 matches. Match number 1 came for Raw. I'll just sum up what we discussed pre-pod. If Cross signs an extension or is signing an extension, then this was the wrong result. Or unless Sami won by cheating, in which case turn them heel and go that way, brilliant. But Sami Zayn's been playing the underdog for 10 years. It's not working anymore for any of us. And I like Sami Zayn. I love his in-ring work and I do like it, but it's like, I would say it's clear that this version of Sami Zayn isn't a world champion because he's had numerous opportunities. We say that every week. So I'm not knocking him this week, Adam, right? I'm just saying you had him in the perfect place to make a world champion. The Bloodline story, they chose not to. This isn't the version. Maybe he wins the Rumble, maybe there is a story, but they need to start turning this around now. Otherwise, it's going to feel like somebody's been shoved in our throats again, which is a mistake. So, decision was fine, assuming Cross's contract does expire this weekend, which for all intents and purposes seems to be the case. However, maybe they'll let it expire, keep him off the other 3 weeks, and then they'll bring him back. I don't know. Fine. Result was fine. Back to Smackdown for you, Daz. Tiff versus Jade. Solid 7-minute match. A spot fest because I think we're at the stage now where that's what Jade Cargill can do.
Everything we've spoke about in the build up to this, from Queen of the Ring all the way through till now, is that she's not good enough in the ring to be world champion. Showed at the weekend on Saturday. I'm not saying it was a bad match, because it wasn't a bad match. It's probably the match where I've seen her mess up the least, which is positive because that's signs of improvement. But it did just highlight how far off being a world champ she is, because she's in the ring with Tiffany, who is how many years her junior, and could literally wrestle rings round her if she wanted to. So
I'm pretty sure if you looked up their wrestling histories, they're probably relatively similar age-wise. I know Jade was relatively fresh when she was in the AEW. Tiffany obviously came in through the talent ID type program that they launched from gymnastics, and yet, as you say, there's a clear difference. And what I will say is that Tiffany curried a bit of favour with fans over the week. A lot of people were saying that she needs to go back to being a heel, and I pointed out last week, and I'll point out again, that she became a face because of how good she was in the ring as a heel. I would like to see a little bit back to almost the NXT character of like the Center of the Universe type character, and a bit less of the Tiffy. It's the same character, but it's just a different spin on it. But if she's got a bit of favour, keep that favour. Let's have a good transition to whoever the next champion is. Build her back up, because she'll never be away from the main event picture for the next 10 years. So keep it fresh. That would be our position on that.
Yep.
And then the match number 3 for this mid-roll of night 1, Drew and Logan versus Randy and Jelly Roll. 3 or 4 quick points. Really good storytelling match in terms of bringing everything together. I think it was the right result. Although, for all intents and purposes, it does sound like it was a late decision. So the result, the plan result changed and Drew's passport turned up.
What a shock.
What a shock. But as we always say, and we'll say it every week, and I'll say it again, to take spots the way Jelly Roll did, fair play to him. And all the reports we're seeing is how positive it was. Like, I think he broke his finger in day 1 of training, strapped up and kept going. So the result is what it is. I hope that's it. It's a one-off. I'd like to see Drew versus Logan as a bit of a feud. I think like the wrestling character of Drew versus the celebrity character of Logan, I think would be interesting. Because obviously the potential for Drew to be the guy to dethrone Cena's gone.
Yep.
maybe a heel Drew versus Cody is a WrestleMania match. I don't know, but there seems to maybe, I don't know. But aye, the match. I think we said, didn't we? I think we said last week that this match had to set something up, and it appears that it hasn't done that. So I think it's a one and done celebrity match, and Jericho might come back in February, but it is what it is.
It's likely to come back early next year, but as a fair summary, it was a solid match which we expected, given 3 of the 4 workers in the ring, and Jericho's clearly made the effort to put on a show. The bump he takes through the table earns him a massive amount of respect in my eyes to take a bump like that. So everybody shakes hands, we move on.
Maybe the only criticism is that it went 17 minutes. Maybe someone the 13 to 14 to give a couple of minutes elsewhere. But
no, because that would have been 4 or 5 more minutes of Sami Zayn carrying Cross.
I was thinking Charlotte and Alexa, but aye, it's fair enough. Right. I'll kick us off. It's a Raw match, so I get to take it.
As that energy chief and night
Raw correspondent. Aye. No.
Exactly.
No. Exactly. It's the main event that I'm hosting, so I get to mute you and just do what I do. No, I've seeded every John Cena match too and said, it's your show, I'll give you my one line and set you up for it, so that doesn't change. Just hopefully Cena appears in a random Raw one week. I've watched the match back, right? And I've watched it back, and I'll say that I did enjoy it more the second time round, so I think it's at least reasonably fair to say that at 2 a.m. for us, fatigue might have set in and we were ready for the end of the show. We were live, so we can be honest, we have discussed all this stuff. We were live on TikTok for this. Unfortunately not on the TGS TikTok due to TikTok guideline issues, which were appealed and resolved overnight. It did feel early on like they were protecting Gunther's face, because we'd heard the rumours about the injury and it was a nose injury, and we all thought, well, what does that mean? Because his nose didn't look broken. They obviously could be reset so that it's straight and then go for surgery. We were considering whether it was something causing issues with breathing or whatever, but they did sell it as a broken nose at the end, so the suggestion would be he's broke his nose somewhere. It felt like there was a level of protection. He looked really strong. It was a good fight. It was I think it's one of the matches that had not been sleep deprived would have went, I'm enjoying the way this story's been told. They kept him looking strong. It did take 2 GTSs to put him down. Once again, the production cut. I went, good for sign. Almost gave away the blade. Well, the blade of the capsule job, whatever way it was done. I think it was a really good match. I just think, see if they managed to help. See if they didn't leak. If there was no leak about Gunther's injury, I think we'd been talking about this match in a higher regard. I think maybe because we were looking for signs of it, we thought that they were protecting him early, and then clearly at the end was the setting up the angle. Probably a fair summary. Yeah.
I too have watched this match back, and I totally agree. It told a good story. It helps to further Gunther and Punk, because the only reason they leaked the injury was because it was Gunther, because it protects him. It does shield him a little bit from, you've dropped the title twice in the space of a month and a half or so. So it protects him a little bit because he's been carrying that injury, if you like. So I watched it back and I agree. The pacing, I initially didn't enjoy the pacing when I watched it live. I watched it back, and whilst I'm still not a huge fan of the pacing, it helped to tell the story. What I thought let this match down was quite sloppy. Some of the, and I don't think it's that the two of them don't gel in the ring, because I think they do. I think the two of them are probably two of the best workers on the men's side. If you're going to say go and wrestle for 20 minutes, they're probably two of the top 5 people you'd pick. It just felt a bit sluggish, and I don't know if that was them also trying to build in the injury angle. But the Gunther's power bombs weren't flush. He never had them up properly. It just felt a little bit off. I initially thought that was maybe, like you say, due to sleep deprivation, but watching it back, I felt the same. I think that the outcome of the match, for me, I'm torn on this, right? Because I'll lead you into what you want to talk about next, right?
I know what you're going to say, because I'm going to agree with you.
I'll lead you into this. I said it on last week's pod, I felt like if they gave Punk the title, it would cheapen his WrestleMania moment. I still think it does, because it shouldn't be the first title he wins since his return, taken away from him in a minute. 5 minutes, technically. But it clearly sets up the main event at WrestleMania, in my opinion, that these two are going to go at it and Punk's going to get his payoff in a main event. I personally feel, without the injury angle, it would have been triple threat and Punk wouldn't have won the title. I personally think Gunther should have retained and had been cashed in on after the Blade in or capsule job, because it's the perfect story to tell that the champion is beat up. But I know the story they're trying to tell, and I'm in for that story because it's going to be a good run for now till Mania.
And I think that's it's one of the ones I always say I don't disagree, as if I try to be positive, but I agree and I don't agree. And it's not because I disagree, it's just because the way it's going is so obvious that it doesn't necessarily make it right. I'm going to cash on mine back a couple of months, and these are your words from a podcast, and I was totally agreeing with. You said, I felt that they've wasted Cena and Punk to further Cena and Rollins.
Yep.
And this felt a little bit like wasting Punk and Gunther. And I know Gunther was injured, but on a black and white wrestling storytelling, but they've wasted that to further Punk and Rollins.
Yep.
That's my one issue with the match. I think I'm with you. I think I personally would have preferred the cash in to prevent Punk, because that was kind of the way the story was being told. That's the whole point of the story. And I'm with you. It doesn't cheapen the cash in. It doesn't cheapen Gunther. Gunther looks strong, and as soon as that capsule, as you say, all right, he is injured, it's a protection job, fine. They could have been taken out by B&B and sold an injury or whatever, but fine, it sells an injury. He disappears for a couple of months for his surgery, whatever he needs. But yeah, no matter what happens, as Punk has won the world title since he's returned to WWE, and it was a 5-minute job on SummerSlam. Even if he'd held it until Monday night, I could have probably lived with that. I would have been like, okay, fine. But I just hope that, like, Punk Rollins proper match. It's a weird one because it can't happen until Mania, but the story says it should happen soon. Like, because
I think it will happen before Mania, but it will end in no contest. I think we will get it in some capacity.
It should. See, honestly, if it does go the way to Mania, it should be Hell in a Cell. Like one of these, no one's getting involved.
Bent on getting a Hell in a Cell.
No, but I mean, like no one get. As you say, if they're going to get a no contest, then there needs to be some sort of stipulation that prevents that when it gets to the match.
Like a last man standing or something like that, and they both end up missing the 10 count or something.
Something silly, but my concern is that we're using other people to follow this feud. Like LA Knight's another one that's now lost out because of it. Now I know he was involved last night and stuff, and maybe there's a payoff. Maybe there is a payoff that LA Knight does end up as a champion at some point, taking it from Rollins, and that allows them to do something else. I don't know, but the fact is that if it cheapens Punk's title win, I think I'm still in agreement with that. If Rollins loses the title, even if he wins it back, it eventually cheapens the payoff in the feud now. So everyone else that's elevated themselves on Raw to that level is now going to be held down and used as a pawn to further this feud. Like, what's LA Knight's path moving forward? Potentially, what's Penta's path? Because these, like, I'm not saying these guys are top tier main event players. They're probably in that Sami Zayn bracket of upper mid card who can facilitate the main event when required. They can be in a main event match. They could be a world champion, like a JS, so they could be a world champion for a period of time. Probably not a 12-month reign, but that's where I see them. But they've earned that. It's not as if they've just found themselves there. They came in, they worked hard, they've looked apart, and you're like, well, yeah, you've got yourself there, but unfortunately there's no payoff because we've got 4 guys that we're paying $5 million a year to that ultimately we've
need to be involved.
So it's a tough one. This is where I want to bring back match number 1 and say I'm assuming, based on the fact that he was involved physically last night, that whatever Braun was dealing with was some sort of muscle tightness or injury at the weekend, and he's obviously fine. But I just don't see what they're... Again, it's like, what's the point of the stable? They lost the match to people who didn't need the win, right? Because Roman and AJ don't need to win that match, even though they should have won it, but don't need to win it. It's a complicated system in my brain here. But they then don't get involved in the main event, become and celebrate, and it's like, well, we're back to this stage of like Rollins doesn't need a stable because he's a mouthpiece, a great worker, I mean, he's still, there'll be 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids that they're saying that Seth Rollins is their GOAT, and we can't argue with that, because if you look at what he's done in the last 10 years, then this is good record as anyways.
100%.
So that's the level this guy's at. He doesn't need him, he doesn't need these guys, but he's got them. We're not seeing enough for Braun and Braun. So just what's the point? And then the other thing I'd ask you on this, Daz, is so we've got that aspect of the tag team, but I've seen the comments and I think they're right. Get to the cash in a second, but the place goes fucking nuts on Saturday night. I mean, I imagine that was in the Superdome, well into our roof. Like, that was deafening without that.
Yep.
And then on Monday night, it's all quiet again. Like, not quiet, but people are like, oh, here we go. It's the same opening 20 minutes that we get every week. The way you say, can we have something different this week?
Yeah. I mean, see, when I watched Raw last night, I thought, I get why Rollins is opening the show. He's now the world champ. Like, I get it. But I don't like it because I've been watching it for 3 months. I'm tired of it. The only thing I will say is I think they've maybe acknowledged through the end of that segment that things need to change in how they're running this show. Because there was a couple of times last night where Adam Pearce said that normal is out the window. We are not doing things the way we normally do. And obviously booked a world title match on Raw. I think that probably filters into why he's got a stable, is because I think he's going to defend this title quite a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of it because I've not had a workhorse champion for a while.
Well, not the workhorse champion since he was champion.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be defending it quite often. I didn't notice it when we watched it live, and again, it's probably sleep deprivation and just desperate to get to the end of the show. See, during the walk down the ramp and the cash-in, you can actively see Punk doing his best Iniesta over his shoulders looking for the two of them. Something told me when I watched that back that maybe they were supposed to be involved, but they didn't want to risk Braun. Because Braun did look like he was nursing something. So, because I don't think they were essential, given they were using the injury angle. I don't think they were essential in that cash-in. But what's the point of building the stable if, for the ultimate payoff for that stable, they're not even on the ramp? They're not even there. They come down to celebrate with him at the end. Felt a bit Travis Scott to me, except Travis Scott was involved.
Totally agree. And the thing is, as well, is that there was one or two referees in the ring at the time, obviously dealing with Gunther, and a couple more referees that came from the back. So I know they're mic'd up anyway, so the audible could have got to Punk. By the way, Braun and Braun aren't involved. That's, so maybe he was just selling. Maybe that was
possibly
part of it all.
Possibly.
Because we talk about the best storytellers, and here's one of them. Which leads us on to the cash in itself. And for anybody that's new to join us or has been joining for a while, over the last few weeks we've been thrown in, been referring to it as the end of the show, which comes from a UK TV show, right? But we need a name for it because we're spinning them off into weekly episodes. We were thinking about calling it the 0.5 because it's like an episode and a half every week. However, that's not wrestling terms, so we need something better. So any suggestions, let us know. But we're doing it in the middle of the show this week, and we're going to try and record these later on because it's getting late here because we've all been busy on Tuesday night. But we're going to talk about the best cash-ins of all time, and I'm going to throw it there and say that this is up there for me. It's in my top three. I will give my top three in a second. It's in my top three, Daz. I get the criticism around faking an injury, and did LA Knight know, and then do you lose trust? However, for me, Daz, this is one of the things that it's a storytelling tool that they've used. If it's done once every 5 to 10 years, I'm okay with it. I think it's different if you're doing this every other month. You'd be like, well, come on, you've done this. The only person that could have pulled that cash in off was Seth Rollins. The overzealous dropping of the crutches and the outfit and the jacket and the glasses. Like, it's made for him. I think he's got 2 of the 3 best cash-ins of all time now.
I don't disagree. We probably will only differ in the number 3 slot, to be honest, for our top 3, because Heist of the Century is and will always be the greatest cash-in of all time. I mean, that was good. on Saturday night, but Heist of the Century was incredible. But yeah, it definitely makes my top 3 as well. It was executed perfectly. My only concern off the back of it is that TKO think it's okay to work the talent. It's a dangerous precedent to set. It causes unrest and distrust, and it's clear that some people knew, but it was very, very few people who knew that was how that was going to play out. I don't believe LA Knight was one of them. I believe his reaction was genuine. Whether he knew the night of Saturday night's main event, by the way, Seth's going down, you're going to BFT him, and this is why. And he was furious about that. Or if he genuinely didn't know and he thought he was hurt.
Either didn't know or he found out late. I think it's fair. I think because either that or he should be moving to Hollywood and acting because...
Yeah, it was honestly a great performance. So, yeah, Seth is 1 and 2 for me. And I've been pondering this since we spoke about it and what would make the other spot in my top 3, and I think the Edge cash-in is up there because of the uniqueness to it at the time.
The first one?
Yes, the first one.
Okay.
It was very unique. But I'm going to give it to Dolph Ziggler as the third one on my list when he cashes in Del Rio. The reason being, I always felt Dolph was underappreciated. He was our era's, I say our era, probably my era's version of Shelton Benjamin, where he was a constant workhorse and just never get the push he deserved. And he was red hot when he was with Big E. He was absolutely red hot when it was Big E Langston at the time.
Am I right in saying that was it the night after Mania? It was the night after SummerSlam? Because it was a huge pop.
I'll
Google it.
Yes, it was the night after a PLE for sure.
Yeah.
Del Rio defended the title, had an injured foot basically and couldn't basically stand up. Ziggler cashes in, gets put in the armbar, wriggles out, zigzag, and the pop was insane. It was nice to see Dolph get his payoff. So for me, that's probably the third in my slot. And an honourable mention to Edge and also to I really enjoyed Kane's cash in on Rey Mysterio. The reason being, didn't he wait about, fit the story perfectly. The big guy wins the briefcase, cashes it on in the wee guy, and takes that title for a walk. So yeah, honourable mentions for me.
So it was the night after WrestleMania 29 that Ziggler cashed in, so hence you get the unbelievable pop for the crowd.
Yep.
Which in terms of storyline booking is perfection, really, because he's a guy
fun.
Nice
perfection,
because
nice fun.
Because you know that 80% of the crowd are the people who appreciate him, despite him being underappreciated, whereas the normal weekly crowd maybe wouldn't have pulled for it.
I would 20% of them would only appreciate him. Yeah.
So I'm with you on the Seths, to the point where if I can be bothered doing a proper thumbnail for this pod this week, we'll have something like Seth Rollins as the GOAT of Money in the Bank or something like that. You did mention the one I'm going to pick at number 3, and that is the first cash in. For Edge, and I think you knew that was where I was going to go, because Money in the Bank was obviously brand new novelty, and it created a situation that none of us were expecting, where it wouldn't be I'm going to challenge you at WrestleMania or I'm going to challenge you at SummerSlam. It became you're fucked for an elimination chamber and I'm coming to take a title off you. Now, conversely, it's meant that it's a great tool for a heel, not so much for a face, because over the years, why would you commit to a cash in when you can just steal the title? I'll still ask this question, please. Why is no one ever cashed in on vacant? Like, if the title's vacant, you have the briefcase, just take the title.
Just go take the title.
I know we had that way, Asuka taking it for Becky, but that was obviously different. But the reason I love it so much is because it took somebody who was pushing from the mid-card to the main event and gave them the opportunity. It should have changed the WrestleMania main event that year.
Mm-hmm.
because Edge was so hot and so over as the champion, but they gave him his 3 weeks and it established him. He then won the title more times that year and became an 11-time world champion off the back of Vince saying, no, this is my guy. I want him to prove that he can carry a brand and carry the company, which he did. He had 3 weeks to do it and fucking delivered. And then he became a Hall of Famer and one of my favourite wrestlers of all time. So now we're in a situation where Triple H isn't a fan of Money in the Bank, apparently, and he's basically giving it to people that he wants
anymore, to be honest.
I feel like it's ran its course.
They definitely need to freshen
the reason I don't like it is that you have the Rock, you've got the Royal Rumble, gets your world title match, then you have Money in the Bank straight after WrestleMania, then you have now King of the Ring saying SummerSlam.
You also get Chamber gets your world title match as well.
Aye. So you've got 3 things in a row basically, almost back to back to back, that give you a world title match without, and because it's been used to give opportunities to people who are in the main event picture, A, it means it kind of has to be heels.
Yep.
And B, you're no elevating Andy. Which is, to me, that's
what I miss about Money in the Bank, was it didn't always go to, I mean, you look at the matches now, they're stacked. See, when you look at the matches, like when it first kicked off, like the Mania ladder matches for Money in the Bank, it was guys like Evan Bourne and Neville and all that kind of stuff that were in these matches. Now, granted, they never won it, but some of the names that did win the briefcase, I mean, Otis held the briefcase at one point. So, yeah, I personally think time's up for Money in the Bank unless they can shake it up. And do something different. I don't think it needs its own PLE. There's even talking of making it a 2-nighter, which I really don't want. But I don't think it needs to be at its own PLE now that WrestleMania, SummerSlam, likely Rumble and Survival Series will move to 2-night PLEs as well. You've got scope on either Survivor Series or even take it back to WrestleMania and just put it on the women on one night, the guys on the next, and just bulk that card out, because you've got 9 hours of wrestling or something there.
My biggest concern is that they make Money in the Bank a 2-night PLE and have one for each.
They will. That's what they'll do.
Pardon me. One for each title in each division. So a WWE women's, a women's world, a men's world, a men's WWE, and you have 4 again. That's my concern.
That sounds horrific.
And that would be horrendous. I don't think Triple H will do that, because I think
he doesn't like it as it is.
He doesn't like the concept at all.
What I wouldn't mind is if they did a Money in the Bank for the mid-card titles collectively. So if you had four briefcases, 4 briefcases, I wouldn't mind that if it was you can cash it in on IC or US.
That would be classy if you did.
I think it helps the women's mid-card division hugely.
See if you called it something like the Next Gen, or the proper name for it, and it was people who either hadn't held a main roster title, so you'd a mix of NXT and some of the recent call-ups. These people, that would be good. I think that's a good thing to do. I think that would make sense.
I would freshen it up a wee bit.
Aye. Well, 20 minutes for night 1 lasted 37, but to be fair, we did the mid-show. I think if we did a top 5 for Money in the Bank cash-ins, I think 4 of the 5 for each is the same, because I dubbed Dolph probably up there as well.
Edge would have been in my top 5 as well. So.
Aye, so the Rollins GOAT status for the cash-in, only he could have pulled that off that way. Some of the stories that are coming out are really funny, but this story is massively important. It's how they keep them apart if they need to for long enough, and how they don't bury everybody else at the same time. And again, if Braun and Braun's only job is to take people out so they don't get buried, then that kind of buries them. So good luck to whoever's writing that on Monday night.
Yeah, good luck to
night 2. We need to call some back to a little bit of time back, but here we go. So this was absolute sleep deprivation. 3 cans of Monster each. Umpteen snacks, try to stay awake. Match 1, Naomi, Rhea, Io. So I get this as a Raw triple threat match. I think this was a very, very good match. I think it was a little bit slow to get going first few minutes, but it was the opening match of the night. I don't think it hits the highs of some of the other matches in the women's division this year, but it was. So we said last week that there was this could have been match of the year. Potential with the storytelling and how these people have worked all year. It could have been a disappointment because of the expectation. I think it I think what I would say is it met expectations, and that's not a bad thing because our expectations were here for it, and I think it got to that level. I don't think it went above and beyond like we had with Elliot. The reason why we talk fondly about the Mania match and the Evolution match is because our expectations were about here and it hit here.
I went above, yeah.
To me, we're up here and it hit that. So, ridiculously good match. I think the right person retained. I think there's a hell of an interesting story coming with Rhea Ripley because she looked a bit demented at the end. And I love the finish because she's complaining about the fistful of tights, but also the trunks, but also the referee's pointing out it's no DQ, like it's a pin's a pin. So again, we use that phrase storytelling. The ending especially, absolutely cinema for me.
I think it's like we spoke about it, and I thought Rhea would go over because I personally think she should go into Perth as champion rather than, but she won it in Perth, whether she was the champ before or no, she will win in Perth.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue I had with the match was the actual ending, and it's not because it's a bad ending, and it's not because it's bad booking, because it's perfect booking for a heel champion to retain their title. The only issue I have is they're just rebooking the Becky Lynch triple threat ending, where it looks like you're getting a new champ, and the champ rolls them up and steals the win. And I get it, they're heel. I understand it. But we've been critical of the multi-man, multi-woman matches for a long time because we've done a lot in the last few months. We've crammed a lot of multi in there. We just seem to be rehashing the booking because it worked for Becky, so let's just do it again for Naomi. But we'll change it a little bit. It won't be a crucifix. It'll be a handful of the trunks. Which you're right, it's a no DQ, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't think it took away from the match itself. It's just a personal thing for me that we're booking the ending the same. Like, as soon as I seen the Riptide, I knew the ending.
I know. And a standalone, closed off vortex, if you like, elite level match that didn't hit the highs because we had higher expectations. However, proves that this Raw Women's division is as stacked as any division there's ever been in my time as a wrestling fan. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
But in the picture of everything that we've done, especially in the last 4 months, as we've watched every minute, every show, every week to try and prepare for this podcast, it's an issue. It's probably one of the matches that 3 years ago, when we were only committing to watching the big four and whatever else we had time for, would have been like, oh, what a match, what an ending. However, now that we're watching every show, we're like, you did that last month.
Yeah. You become more critical. Of course you do.
Doesn't take away for the three women in the match who...
Definitely not.
Certainly, I mean, let's just combine them into one massive pot, and Io Sky's top 5, at least, in terms of in-ring ability. Top 10, definitely, but I think even higher. She is phenomenal in the ring. Rhea Ripley is unbelievable. I could debate that. And I wouldn't be able to turn around and say you're wrong. I'd just be able to... The only thing I could do is paint a picture for somebody else. I couldn't turn around and say here's the list of reasons why it's not Io. I can only say here's the list of reasons why it could be this person.
It could be this
instead.
person. No, 100%. See, there's a couple I could make that argument for as well. On top of Io, they're just in a good position.
And Naomi, again, I'm going to just toot her in Holland and saying that WrestleMania we call for Naomi going to Raw heel, and she's been brilliant. And she deserves to be champion, and she deserves to carry this for a good bit longer. And whatever the payoff's going to be brilliant. And she's playing a phenomenal character again in the ring and out of the ring. I love the briefcase as a suitcase with the ride along scooter thing. Like, that's just it's funny. It's we talk about it's. I know it's different, but it has been a little bit refreshing. It's a new thing for Money in the Bank. It's not just a briefcase. It's playing into the character that she's been playing. So
she reminds me a wee bit of Solo Sikoa. She's having fun in this role. The maniacal laugh for me is perfect. I love it.
And you can almost see the long-term booking where she becomes the face of, because she's the heel that's right, a bit like a Kevin Owens type character, where it's like you're the bad guy, but you're making a lot of sense. Match 2 does, and match 2 is it's a Smackdown match. I've got to get to you. The clip that I posted on TikTok, your reaction says it all, but and you go, just talk me through this absolute chaos.
So, for anybody who regularly listens to the pod, this tag division has been the thing that has kept me going through watching Smackdowns every week because I know I'm guaranteed a good tag match somewhere on the card. So I did say last week I had my concerns. It was going to be too busy. It was going to be overbooked. And the match, I believe it was Abyss and Adam Pearce who produced this match. I think it was Fightful Select, are correct, which I'm sure they will be. My God, what a job they done with this match. To have 12 people plus the 3 women who got involved as well. So you're talking, you need 15 bodies. Don't quote me in the runtime, probably somewhere between 20 25 minutes. And that
16,
ballpark.
exactly 16 minutes.
It felt like an hour. It felt like an hour because it was great. And I was so tuned in, right? A couple of things to call out. Everybody got airtime, which was great. Everybody looked good, which is also a challenge in that match.
Yep.
I'm going to call first and foremost here Candice LeRae.
Oh my fucking
as an
God,
absolute, took it like a champ. I feel really bad for her because
that ladder wasn't meant to break like that, I don't think.
It was not. And see, to be honest, they tried to protect her. Johnny tips the ladder, like he's holding the ladder to control it, to make sure she doesn't overextend because she does weigh next to nothing. So massive props to her for taking the bump. Huge credit to Howdy for taking the bump that he took at the end, because he's not involved in the match. He's barely wrestled since the return, so it was really good to see him take that bump. And then we'll come to the 4 corners. The 4, it's just everyone I watched, I thought the next one can be better. The first two are standard for a TLC type scenario. My God, the Rey Fenix frog splash was perfection.
It was beautiful. The camera angle.
It's perfect. Up towards him is perfect. And I thought to myself, there's no way Big Doc can do anything better to Ciampa on the last corner. And then up he popped. Axiom just appears, and I can hear Saunders going, Spanish Fly. Oh my God, Spanish Fly. And I'm like, no way. Incredible.
And that same camera angle pointing up to show the height, and then the fact that they almost shoot into the crowd.
It's not just for taking that spot on, for Doc to be doing it at the build that he's got is a huge risk, because there wasn't a lot of room to work with.
No.
This match would have been match of the night for me had the main event not been fucking insane. So not for me, it seems weird to say it's the best tag match that division's put on, and they've already had some serious bangers.
It's the best tag match in a month, basically,
it's the best tag division in the world. 100% is the best tag division in the world. It's going to get chopped up, and people are going to get redistributed, I feel, in the next few weeks. But my God, they earned their spot on that PLE.
I'm just going to wrap up, and I'm not going to repeat anything, and just say that I posted the reactions on TikTok immediately because I was like, this is insane. It was overbooked, but it was overbooked to perfection. It was
100%.
It was spot fest telling a story. It was just phenomenal. We all, Ross picked Andrade and Phoenix last week to go over. You and I both said that's who should win. However, the Wyatts will retain because of the story that's going on and the fact that Mo just picked it up. So no issue with that. No matter what happens with the split of division, all these teams are going to look strong. The fact that we saw Judgment Day and New Day put on a good match in the other brand last month for the titles means that whoever does go over there has some decent dance partners. I think Fraxium's one of the teams that should go. I think they can go over there and be champions without holding somebody else back. And whatever else happens. But what I would like to see is 3 or 4 of these teams, and maybe it's 2 of them and 2 for the other brand, run this back at the end of the year. We said this last week, 2 weeks ago, United said that John Cena's last match, Saturday night's main event, the first match should be a TLC Tag Title match for 4 teams, because
totally agree.
A young kid is going to watch that for John Cena and see these teams do stuff and go, holy fuck. I love wrestling. Yep. The way we did with the Hardys, ENC and Dudley's 25 years ago. So don't overdo it, but you've had 2 TLC matches for that title this year, and give us more. 1 a quarter will do.
I'm fine with that.
Aye. it was. Oh, by the way, we forgot one spot when they call it the Ciampa upside down on the title belts.
Oh, do you know something?
By the way,
do you know something?
That was another ridiculous
I didn't
one.
realise just how much nostalgia we were going to get over the 2 nights at this PLE. Nathan Fraser setting up for the spear.
I know. You said, we're getting the spear. And then...
and then Ciampa shows us that insane athleticism. And what I thought was really funny was Saunders and I were talking during this match about why did they never do anything unconventional for this match and win it without having to climb the ladder. And then
I know
Ciampa's hanging for it, and it was perfect. It was really, really good. I think if they'd booked it later in the match, I think it would have been a perfect finish if you could have convinced one of Gacy or pardon me for forgetting his name. Dexter Lumis, to pull that spot off, but I'm not sure either of the two of them could. But no, match of the night if it had not been for the main event, in my opinion.
Yep. Match number 3, which also could have been match of the night. We said this during the match, and I know that you've always been critical of mostly the mic work, but I don't think Becky Lynch has ever had a bad match in WWE.
I don't disagree with you either.
And Lyra hasn't had a bad match since she's been on the main roster. This was 25 minutes long, and it did not feel like it. It was a phenomenally good match. And I'll start off by saying you cannot fake getting whacked by a kendo stick like that. That was, I mean, the open stomach as well for both of them taking it. It was just like, for a no-D, like, we said this when Cena and Rhodes came out, that they have to do something amazing here because they're following what is essentially a street fight match an hour earlier. That was the best street fight match I've seen all year, just about, because it was fucking brutal. They just wanted to kill each other. And that's as much as I can say. Like, this story has been brilliant. I think I did pick Becky to retain because I wanted to see what would go. I think you guys went Lyra, which
I did go for Lyra.
Now opens up a whole other avenues of where does Lyra go, and what does Bayley do, where does Lyra go? But
I now know
where Lyra Valkyria is here to stay.
I think she's getting shuffled.
I
think she's getting shuffled after Monday night. Telling Bayley to stay out of life, etc., etc.
She's going to go and fix the women's US title.
I feel bad for Julia because Julia needs somebody to work with her.
Aye. And Lyra can't lose another feud if she does go there.
No, surely not.
This one's fine. Nah, we'll say what we always say. You can get over without winning matches. You seem to be good in those matches. Lyra has won some matches against Becky Lynch, and she's won some matches with Bayley involved, but she's now lost a couple of matches. However, she's coming out looking for them like sweet. The crowd are involved. I mean, that's all I can say about this match. It was fucking brutal. It was just
everything you want for a street fight.
I mean, there was at least 4 kendo sticks involved.
There was loads involved.
What I will say as well about Lyra, the professionalism for Lyra, because I know we all saw the cable ties coming off at one point, or the zip ties for American friends, and she managed to get her hand back in them. Now, Cole and Barrett fucked it by pointing that out, and then she got them retightened later on, and then am I right in saying, and this was really late in night too, but there was a moonsault with no arms at one point? Like,
she did. A middle rope moonsault as well. It wasn't a top rope. Really, really good showing for Lyra. I think it shows
a night wing for the apron to the floor as well.
Mm-hmm. It just showed.
That's fucking brutal.
She showed out. She showed that she deserves to be at the top of the division, and as soon as an opening appears for her, she will get that push. As soon as there's a space for her in that main event picture.
100%.
Great match.
This whole feud has been cinema. It's been booked perfectly. It's been told perfectly. Okay, some of Becky's, again, even last night was, to the extent of the week before, a little bit screechy in her promos. It's hard to tell if it's just overly passionate or if it's just trying to be an annoying heel, because it does get annoying. I think it's the character. As soon as that bell rings, but it's the character, and as soon as that bell rings, she is better than anyone else in the world, I think. And Valkyria has shown the level she's at. And that has been the case for the 4 months that this feud's been going on for. We kept saying we need more, but we did also say they have to get the ending right. I think they got the ending right. Everybody looked pretty strong. The only person's looking weak in this whole thing's Bayley. She's just been hanging about waiting for it. Becky's new music, I love the presentation. It's still got the same beat at the start, but it's like a bit heavier, it's a bit more heelish. The crowd now can't chant along to it, which obviously helps the persona. And the last thing I'll say on this match is I'm not too enamoured with the match that's coming, but I think if it's a one-off in Paris, I'll live with it, because Nikki's not going to win that match, surely.
This is my concern, is that when you come out of a programme that has been as hot as it has been with Lyra Valkyria, you can have a one and done with anyone and get away with it because your previous programme was so good. The in-ring work will not be anywhere close to the mic work between these two, as we seen last night. These two will sell a good story. I'm not looking forward to seeing it, if I'm really honest. I feel like the Paris card's going to be really saturated right now because there's a lot of matches already on it.
There's a lot of matches that we're kind of assuming are going to be Paris, and maybe they're not.
I can't see Nikki Bella and Becky being later than Paris because of...
The next one's Australia.
And that's October. And I can't see them drawing this out till October. Because I think off the top of my head, there's 4 matches in the card right now. 5?
For Paris?
If we include this.
There's officially 1. And it's Naomi or Io Sky versus Stephanie Vicker.
Yeah, I know, but there will be...
So there's likely.
Yeah, so you've got to think the world titles will feature, apart from Cody, and Cena will be wrestling in Paris. So there will be a Cena match in lieu of Cody having the title. There will be a Rollins match. You would think your other women's title will be defended. So you're looking at the guts of 4 matches. You've got to think that they'll both be on it, which only really leaves you 2 spots.
We'll save it for the main event, but who's Cena's opponent in Paris going to be? I mean, we'll save it for the later on, right? But,
yeah. But I don't think that's who it will be in Paris.
No, I don't think so. I think that's Australia.
Yeah.
Match 4. You know what? This might be the only match that I didn't think was great.
It was hampered by how good Night 2 was.
I think so. I think it was also hampered by the fact that it went 12 minutes and 40 seconds with 5 minutes interference. Again, like if you'd given the 2 guys 12 minutes to go, but it was Solo and Jacob, it's a Smackdown match, it's your favourite. It's now's time for this story to end. Solo's won this, it needs to move on.
Yeah, I don't think it is finished, unfortunately. It will round out soon though. And again, I think it's the mid-card guys in SmackDown are tied up elsewhere right now. Like LA Knight wrestled for the world title, and he's had his run in this mid-card, so he had to be kept away for a little bit. Solo deserves to kick on and go on a bit of a run with this title and go and take on different people. Yeah, the cage was lower than normal for obvious reasons. Fatu's moonsault ultimately is the reason it was lowered. The spot at the end.
And also that they had to build the structure, which means they can't go as high because it's outdoors.
Yep.
Where they're got to keep it at a level where the cage is in below it.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I don't think it was a bad match. It told an okay story for what these two are trying to tell, but we're in dangerous territory of, right, it feels a little bit like kind of Diet Bloodline, where it's no Roman versus Jay, it's little Roman versus little Jay type thing.
And you're also holding the US title hostage. It's doing nothing for MD right now.
I think the feud would be better. See if they're going to keep it going. Solo should drop the title to someone, free up the belt, move it to somebody else, and these two can still go at it.
And then then
we can go back to the belt. But I also don't want Solo to drop the belt, so let's just sack this stuff off and move on.
That's exactly what I am. But they've done a decent job, but it needs to move on now. I think SmackDown is already struggling for the cut back to
Definitely.
2 hours. Like, I think in an ideal world, both shows would be 2.5 hours long. It's still the same 5 hours. But the fact is, and I say this a few weeks ago for anybody that's outside of the Netflix zone, but when we wake up on Tuesday morning to watch the edited version of Raw and SmackDown, we don't get the adverts, we don't get when we watch the stream live, we get the action in the ring, whilst everybody else worldwide's getting adverts. But
so we win
that gets cut,
live,
that gets cut, and we don't see that at all. And Smackdown runs for an hour and 20 minutes. Now, it's an issue when you get the Hulk Hogan tributes. It's an issue if you get 20-minute promos, but it's an issue when both your mid-card titles are struggling. So they need to figure something out there massively. And the problem is that it kind of goes back to the fact that you should have had one women's mid-card title, especially now that your tag champs are going to be SmackDown.
I think a real issue they've got is we no longer have house shows or pre-shows on PLEs.
Yep.
Because as much as you maybe didn't enjoy it, it was good background filler watching the New Day defend their tag team titles against somebody instead of just listening to people talk for an hour before it.
There has been a wee return to house shows recently, but it's not like every day of the week. It's I think maybe once a month they're doing like a wee mini tour in certain bits of the country, in the US and stuff, and obviously whenever they're abroad to do a proper house show schedule. But there's just
they're freeing up time in their schedule by cancelling press conferences at the end of shows. So a lot of the pre-stuff could be pushed to post and give us one or two matches. It doesn't have to be anything special. Like Julia shouldn't have been left off the card entirely at the weekend. Put her on the pre-show with somebody for NXT for her US title, a wee open challenge or something. But nah, for me, you're right. They're struggling with the amount of time they've got. We're a bit the same in this podcast. We're allocated a certain amount of time and we make a rip-roaring pig's ear it every week. So try to be as diplomatic as possible with that as well.
In fairness, we allocate our own time. But it's fine. Match 5, back to Raw, Dom versus AJ. It intrigues me, this match, because in my head I'm thinking AJ's a potential Paris opponent for Cena because of how popular he was in France last year, and obviously it's replaying the hits. But AJ's not going to give up in the Intercontinental title. I thought maybe there was an opportunity for AJ to win it, Cena to win it, and then Dom to go over Cena, and that way they all get what they need at it. So two guys get a Grand Slam and one guy gets the rub. And I'm surprised that Dom won because I think you and I both went AJ thinking that Dom was going to do a Triple A run as a world champion, and just to see how that works. But I wonder if Dom retaining is an indication that Liv Morgan's return isn't as far away as we think, and it's the fact that they dropped the women's tag titles, and then that'll be the next domino to fall, or the final domino if it's the men's tag titles that go next. So it was a good match. It was over 10 minutes. I think it's the longest we've seen Dom go for a while since Mania, which is also a multi-man match, which is different. But the next 3 or 4 months for Dom are crucial because
huge.
It's another show. We're starting to see that he's not really a heel, even though AJ is very popular. People want to see Dom and want to see more of him.
Yeah, I think it's a huge 3 or 4 months for him, and I think he will still get his Triple A World title run. And I think the reason for it being is, as we've just spoken about, the shows are so crowded that when Dom is wrestling, he's getting 7-minute matches. That's what he's getting. And the crowd are hot on him, regardless it's 7 minutes or 17 minutes, they will be hot on the guy. I think he needs... The run's going to do in the world of good. I was surprised he didn't drop the IC title. I'm all for him, putting 2 straps on him and having the Triple A title on Raw every week. I'm fine with it. Because we've seen a bit more of Psycho Clown and Mr. Iguana in recent weeks as well, that they're still bleeding that relationship across the 2 brands. So I still think he'll get his world title run. I think it's absolutely pivotal in what is next for him. I personally would like to see they'll run it back in my head in Paris as well. They'll run it back, but again, we've just spoke about that potential card and what that looks like. I would like to think that I've changed my dream booking for Cena's last match. It's now AJ, Dom and Cena in a triple threat match for the IC title, and Dom gets the rub. Is my ideal match, but who knows how that'll play out. I mean, Cena doesn't get his Grand Slam, so I don't know how that'll work.
Unless he goes into as champion.
Yeah, but you'd need to shuffle the title around twice, and then
which is why I think it's now. It feels like it would be too late.
Yeah, especially with the fact that Cena can't win it in Paris because Cena's then off the following month. But we'll get to Cena's opponents potentially.
I mean, that's the assumption, but we had that same assumption for the main event this time round, didn't we?
We did. No, we absolutely
did. Which also leads me to believe that Cena will stay on SmackDown.
For right now, he has because Cody isn't there.
Yeah, and there's Roman.
But that's why he's booked
who's been working Raw.
This is his first full-time month and his retirement tour.
If you're asking me for a bit of fantasy booking, I'd have Dom go to AAA and not appear weekly on WWE for a month or two, and then when he comes back, he'll just be a face. Just even if it's the Rumble, even if it's December, just have a pop.
You book your IC title totally off the show then.
I think he should have dropped it at the weekend.
Oh, I agree. I think AJ should have picked that. I totally agree. But I think they're shaping up for AJ to win in France because of how over he is.
My big concern is that AJ signed a 1-year deal, hasn't he? A 2-year deal. He's come out and said, I'm retiring next year, so he's got a 1 and 18-month deal. You would have liked to think that he would have either A, had an agreement to be the IC champion, or B, an agreement to do something in TNA where he started as part of this deal. Like, it wouldn't make sense for him not to, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. We're at an hour and 6 minutes.
Strap in for the next 54 minutes.
I think we can go 20 minutes this match. 15-20 minutes, and we've done it time-wise. Aye. Is it Sterling Brown written? No, it wasn't. It was Jake Peralta to Sterling Brown's character, but I'm about to monologue, son. John Cena is the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and I love that man, and I'm not afraid to say it. But this was two guys, Daz, who were pissed off with what happened a few months ago and went out to show that these two guys are the guy of the last 20 years and the guy of the next however many years. This was phenomenal from start to finish.
Don't disagree with anything you've said other than Cody's the guy for the next however many years, not in my opinion. The reason being, because I see people talking about this, it's a passing of the torch. Right? You cannot pass the torch to a guy in his 40s. That's not a passing of the torch. That's a temporary hold this torch until Dom Mysterio is ready, please. But yeah, ultimately, like I said it last week, it's the right guy to take the title for the business perspective, not for me personally. But where to start? I said it to you pre-intro. And the match itself, Cena's Tron is coming back. The colour, I've written about it.
Yep.
And I told you that if it didn't come back, it would be a swerve. I'm glad it wasn't a swerve because I'm so locked in for these next 4 months and just watching Cena.
By the way, see the second pop. See the second pop when the Tron changed from black to blue. The place went mentally music and intense. It goes again. You're like, that's why he's the best. It's the crowd. Anyway, so I keep going. I'm just going to.
No, you're fine.
Whenever you say something that I want to get excited about.
This is where I want to defend how they booked him a little bit as a heel, right? And the bit you've picked out there is perfect. Cena's big promo in Belgium, you get nothing. The toxic relationship, you get no new music. You don't get the new John Cena look. You don't get anything because you deserve nothing. Him coming out in the Friday night SmackDown before it, essentially apologising, admitting he doesn't want to ruin wrestling, and then giving the fans what they wanted, deserved that huge pop. Yeah. And I think that...
Do you think, see me said that, do you think it was important that this was face versus face? And that it was John Cena as his best versus Cody at his best just now?
Yes, the reason being, I personally wouldn't have a John drop the title, right? Personally, for me, I don't think it was the right time. But the way in which they booked it is the only way they could have booked him dropping it, right? And with a bit of hindsight, that match is far too good for Saturday night's main event, right? So the way in which he was booked was he pulled out all the stops. He got to wrestle, which was fantastic. He got to do a bit of the old school stuff with the weapons and etc. got to do some of the new school stuff.
We called it. We called it when Cody starts undoing the turnbuckle. We're getting an STFU here with
the
the
ropes.
Yeah, we're
getting the STFU with the ropes.
The callbacks.
Kind of stuff, callbacks. Yeah.
The top rope famous of the code red on the outside. The code red. He looks around because the crowd pop for it, like as if to say, "Oh yeah, thanks." Like
I can do that.
I can wrestle. Yeah, I can do it. Everything was just. It was.
And again, it felt like they packaged this match up. I don't know who produced this match actually. But props to them because it was unreal. But the way that the match was packaged up was a callback to his entire heel run so far. You can't wrestle, you all deserve nothing, you don't get this, you don't get that. Cena said he wants to shake the hands of the man. He wants to shake the hand of 18. He didn't shake his hand to the very end. So I had a glimmer of hope in my eyes that he hadn't shook his hand, so maybe John would win 18 at some point. But we all know they're not going to book Cody like that and have him drop the title so soon. So it's, on a personal level, I think it will be match of the year for me. On a personal level, I don't think it will be on a technical level. However, my mortal enemy, Dave Meltzer, has also agreed that it was a classic, so I'm fine with that. Right, he gets a pass this week. He gets a pass this week for agreeing in that sense. So I could talk about this match all night. I really, really could. There's probably two things I want to call out for the match. One that I thought was exceptional, and one that I thought I was a wee bit. I was a little bit. I wasn't sure. So having Cena put on the performance he did, I'm surprised he didn't gas out. I did not know he still had that level of stamina in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
They did a whole lap of the arena. The Cody Vader, where he's got him up for the FU, is an iconic photo. Beautiful. Incredible. Something I'm going to be a little bit critical of, right? And in the last 10 years, there has never been a more polarising figure to step in the ring with than the Tribal Chief. He has been the guy. He was unbeatable throughout that entire Bloodline run. 1,000+ days as champion. And it took the 3 Crossroads to pin him, right? As well as the entire match. It's like from start to finish, right? But the 3 Crossroads is what finished him. I think it was hard to watch John kick out of the 3 Crossroads because I was so invested in the match that I was happy. But I know that realistically shouldn't be happening in the world of this storytelling, right? My concern is that both men should have lost at one point in the match.
Yeah.
And it felt like we're not really sure how to end this. And I'll be honest, I didn't like the ending of the match. I didn't like the single Crossroads after the attack. I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was a fitting end to the match based on what had happened previously.
Compared to kicking it to the FUs and then a third for the top rope or the middle rope.
Well, what was left of the ropes. But no, I'm not going to be too critical on the match. It was a guy in his 40s versus a guy in his 50s. And they put on an absolute feast. I'll come to you for your thoughts in just a second. I was heartbroken when Cena lost. And I put it on the Twitter post the event itself because we all know what happens after the full-time whistle blows on that match. If you're going to take the title off the guy in his retirement run, that cannot be the end to the show. And I think most people forgot that Cena dropped the title because of what happened after. And I think it takes the sting out a little bit.
It might have always been somewhat deliberate. But I think you should have had... we should have cut to black with Cody and Cena in the ring. That should have been...
It should have happened mid-match to help him, and that's why he lost the title in my opinion.
But... And I don't disagree. It's not don't disagree. I agree that more was kicked out of than what ultimately kept Cena down. However, it was Super Cena versus Super Cody. It was part of the booking. It was
100%. Like I get that part of it.
you're saying on a personal level, it's a match of the year. If you're saying a personal level, this is my favourite wrestling match of all time. And yes, we get recency bias, but this was a match that made me fall in love with what professional wrestling is again. That's what it felt like to me on Sunday night, and I will get to the post match bit in a second because that does add to it. Like I popped, and I'll explain a bit more about it, but I popped because of the guy. A guy I grew up watching wrestling reappears with iconic music, and a guy that I just like watching launch people about the ring. But John Cena just like, you can't wrestle. John Cena put on a 37-minute and 45-second street fight at damn near 15 years old, and the main event of what became the best night of wrestling this year, potentially, and looked unreal and looked like the greatest professional wrestler of all time. That I fucking loved it, and I was heartbroken. I was gutted because like at the end of it, watching it, like I felt emotional. Like I'm already saying like whether this is true or not, whether you're like. I just know that on the 13th of December I will be sitting there on my 34th birthday at midnight fucking greeting because it's going to be over because John Cena's not going to come back. He's doing it properly, right? I just know that's how I'm going to feel in a few months' time.
I can't see.
And I'm also going to cry because I'm going to have to try and explain to the wife that we can't have a night away from my birthday because my friends are going to want to watch wrestling because it's John Cena's last match. But I was gutted because I know that it was heartbroken, and it's part of the reason that I did pop for the post-match bit is because, like, we're okay. As I said in the time, we're getting the hits. That's what I was expecting AJ in Paris, whatever we're going to get. And it makes me feel better about the decision. I don't have an issue with Cody Rhodes. I like him more than you do. I think he's earned the right to be world champion in WWE in the last few years. I don't like the fact that he's been allowed to win everything. I think that's an issue I have. Like, King of the Ring, back-to-back Rumbles, big main event, get the win over Johnson. Like, I think that in itself is too much when there's other people. But I think that's where they backed themselves in a corner by saying that King of the Ring is once again a Summerslam main event match. That's their mistake. But as you say, it was the right guy in the wrong time if Cody's going to disappear now. But then I suppose the other way around is that if we agree that that's the case, then Cena had to drop it in Paris if he's going to disappear for a month. So I came to terms that we're going to get the hits.
The guy who returned.
I hope they get
October. Would have been my preferable booking now that he's back. Would be for Cena to hold the title until then, because that's that. If anybody can be a champion in an instant, that he's the guy. But do you really want him to be the face of your company right now? You know what I mean?
I know. I think we're getting a one-off match and then maybe another bit of a break. But I don't. Cody's probably the guy. And in fairness, a big part of the reason that you and I were worried. I know you personally are not a huge fan of him, but was because how disappointing the Mania match was. We thought, if they have that same match again, then that's a fucking problem. They didn't have that same match again. They had, as I've just said, my favourite wrestling match I've ever watched in my entire life. And I'm so glad that I ruined my entire weekend sitting up to watch it, and I've done no work for 2 days because I will watch everything John Cena does until the end of the year.
I'm a part of a core memory for Saunders, and you're not.
You weren't there. I would have been gutted waking up Monday morning to reading about it.
I couldn't have missed that match. I could not have missed that match.
I honestly just want to shake John Cena's hand, and I'm going to be gutted, and I wish, like, it's one of the ones where had I not just moved house, I probably would have said to the wife, like, I know it sounds stupid, but I have to go to Boston for 2 nights. Done a night in December. I just need to let me go. Unfortunately, we need bathrooms and shit done, but it was fucking cinema. It was just fucking perfect, and that's why I'm not too fussed at like. See if they came out and said John Cena's retiring now, he's not doing December. I'd be pissed, but I'd also be like that.
That's the perfect send off.
Imagine that. He's not having a 40-minute banger at Saturday night's main event, is he? And that'll be what we remember. John Cena had John Cena had one of the best matches of his career to drop the title on his way out the door. That's wrestling history, and that's where it is.
I think Cena's match, the blueprint for Cena's match for me is the blueprint of what made him a star is that he should be the IC champ and he should hold an open challenge for the IC title. Now, I would love to see Kevin Owens answer it. It's not going to happen.
No.
But it would be a perfect callback to help him put somebody back on the map. But that's how it should be for me. I've thought long and hard about it. That's going to be my stance now to the end of the year. He should be IC champ. He should host an open challenge and he should put somebody over on his ass on the way out.
I agree. You can win every match up until then. But
so this is something I was going to say. I feel like Cena should go on a Ric Flair-esque retirement run where he does not lose a match until it's time to bow out.
I think it's important because we did criticise it a couple of years ago when he was doing his part-time runs, and if he loses every match, it's not really putting someone over. Like when he lost his Solo, it was like 13 straight defeats. You're like, who cares at this point? And Solo went in the losing stream. Aye. So he's not done that. He's won these matches. He's put Cody over. Win a few more.
He's only got 4 or 5 left anyway.
We think it's 4. It seems to be going to wrestle the PLEs, and that's it. I think he'll find
that's on the basis that he doesn't wrestle on a weekly basis. I think we're going to get a couple in August because he's booked every week. So I think we might get a couple. And he's shown now that he's fit enough.
But there is one issue. There is one issue with the IC title theory, which I like, is that's on Raw, and he's going to have to win SmackDown because they don't have a champion for the next month. He has to win SmackDown. I personally think it'd be great for him to drop it back to Dom.
No, unless they vacate it. If Dom's forced to vacate it, if he's going to be Triple A World Champ.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Or is he the type of person that Solo could get away with dropping that US title to have a US Open Challenge match? I know he doesn't get the Grand Slam, but that's another throwback. Unless
you go crown jewel, champion versus champion, and you make it for both straps.
Possibly. I don't know. It was weird, man. It was like you're sitting there at 3 o'clock on a Monday morning. You're 4 hours away from alarm going off for work, and I'm like, this is actually over. This is the end, and I'm not ready for it.
It's the last time I see John Cena as a world champion, and it was hard to watch.
I feel as if MD actually watches or listens out there. I'll be sitting there slagging us off in the comments, but like,
I don't think so. I think the younger generation now will not understand.
2002. John Cena's main roster debut was 2002. I was 10 years old. Like this is my childhood. This is everything.
I totally agree.
Still loving professional wrestling now. It's just like this.
This generation will understand it when
even if they was booing him.
Rollins hangs his boots up when Reigns retires. This generation will understand what we feel for John Cena. They will understand it because a lot of this generation just see him as a joke.
And it's why the last couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about some controversy in a minute, it's difficult for your perspective because Hulk Hogan was quite a bit of him at the end of WCW, and obviously a bit of his really late run in WWE in the early 2000s, but his heyday was before our time. So it's really 100%. Easy for us to look at what he's done in the last 10 years and say, you know what, like, the guy's obviously not a nice person. We'll say that. He's clearly had issues. And therefore it's easy for us to say, okay, who cares? But I've seen people online being forced to apologise for feeling nostalgic about him, and I'm like, but it's tough. Like, I don't know how people felt about Hogan Matt today. I can only assume it's how we feeling about Cena right now. And
100% will be.
And you've obviously got the profile's got to fit the quote unquote crime, and we're not really in a position to talk about. We've been really
lucky. The guy we were told to idolise growing up is an embodiment of everything you want to be a face of your company. That's just what the guy is. And me and you spoke about this off air, and you mentioned it yourself. You popped for Lesnar's return. I was in a state of disbelief. I don't think my face has ever done that before.
Didn't move. I thought you'd frozen the guy. Didn't move.
I've never done that before. I was trying to process some stuff in my brain while it was happening, with the occasional what the. It's difficult, right? Because in this day and age, especially, the storm that Brock Lesnar is mentioned in, let's be clear, he's not been accused of anything, and I'm not going to go do this is a fun podcast, so I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of guilty versus innocent, etc., etc.
We'll make it clear. We'll just make it clear that, as per our understanding of what we can read about the story, he hasn't been accused. Like that, it's not totally black and white. So our understanding is he's mentioned, but not necessarily alleged or accused of doing something. He's mentioned having done stuff, but not accused of anything that's necessarily illegal. It's morality. We're probably discussing here. Is that clear enough for this? Our understanding is that's the situation, and if we're wrong, we'll hold our hands up. But as far as we can research, that's
and I think that this is a particularly difficult industry, right? Because I think that if you look at other sports, right, the NFL is a good one to use as a measuring stick. 60% of the roster beat their wife, right? It's a notorious, but it just is notorious for it. Do you know what I mean? It's constant, and maybe not so much nowadays, like in this very current era, but it's been recurring for a long time. Do you know what I mean? The industry that we love in wrestling is littered with horrible human beings. It just is, right? For different reasons. It's not to say they're all bad people, but a lot of people have done some really bad stuff. The amount of people who idolise Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy is a notorious drug abuser.
No.
Props to him, huge props to him for being clean. For as long as he has, he looks incredible. Seen him at SummerSlam, he looks great. I looks bye. The Usos, Jay's just been world champion. Jay drives around drunk and puts people and children's lives at risk. That's a bad person in my opinion. But I also believe you can learn from mistakes. I'm not saying that everything's on a par with each other. I think that sometimes people should take a step back and think this is the industry where everybody we've idolised growing up, probably with the exception of John Cena, is something that there's an elegant of criminality about it in some capacity.
Especially when you're talking about the generation before us would have grew up idolising people whose private lives were private.
Yeah.
We've grew up with these people who are forced to be 24/7 on social media.
100%.
I'm not saying that's right. That makes a difference. It doesn't. It just means that you don't know what was happening in the 90s. You know what happened in the 2000s onwards in comparison. I think it's just worth making absolutely clear that I did a pop from a wrestling perspective because I was like, we're getting the hits, it's Brock's music. And it's hard to address the other situation because there's too much people try to be black and white in the world when a world that's grey. The fact is that WWE would not have put him out there, and I believe they would never have put him out there if they'd not satisfied themselves through what is essentially one of the strongest legal teams in any company in the world, that they were ironclad bulletproof. Somebody might accuse me of being naive, and that's fine, but it's not naivety. It's my choice to not just assume the worst of all, worst of every person all the time, because that's just no way. I couldn't live my life like that. I have to at least be able to see, look, he would not be there unless they were satisfied.
The company have put themselves in a tricky position, right? And see if Brock, I agree with you, I think they must be satisfied to a serious degree that nothing's going to come of this for Lesnar. However, it comes with a couple of caveats. For me, I am willing to back the industry in bringing Brock Lesnar back on the basis of how quickly they removed Vince McMahon.
Yes. Right,
that was done, and for a company of that size to remove a man in that position as quickly as they did, that's some serious stuff. The other thing I would add is that I will go on record as saying this on recording: if Brock is sued, is found guilty, and it is revealed that the WWE or TKO took a gamble, that wouldn't happen without the proper evidence, I won't watch the product. It's not a company I'll be willing to support. If they're willing to be risking stuff like that, got to have faith that they've done their due diligence and that this guy is fit to be on TV.
And that's not to say that you get sued, and even if it's sued and it's not guilty in a court of law from beyond reasonable doubt, it's what we call the UK civil court, where it's balanced probabilities. If he ends up quote unquote guilty of something, it doesn't mean to say the WWE, if they had information at the time, we went, this is information we had and we satisfied ourselves, then I can love it. But as you said, if it was like, it was a 60-40 toss up, you'd be like, oh, no.
You should never have taken that risk. 100%.
We'll need going for something else to talk about.
Totally, and we maybe need to try that other product that's available.
Some local indie shows. Or TNA.
From a wrestling perspective, the return is huge.
And 60,000 folk went mental. That's. I mean, I did say at the start of the night there was. I saw it happening because his name was mentioned on Twitter a few times, and you just go, "There's no smoke without fire." I just knew it was there, but
I don't know how I never.
It's a really difficult position
when they announced that it was going to be Minnesota in 2020. I don't know how I never twigged it.
Well, to be fair, Minnesota was supposed to get Mania last year, and this was their payoff for giving it to Vegas, so it's hard to say. But that looks as well maybe his retirement match.
Possibly.
It's tough. It's a tough situation because Brock was my favourite before Cena was there. Well, that and you've got to step back and say, right, he's done some dodgy stuff. I don't know. He's been accused. He's mentioned in some dodgy stuff, but it's.
What's been released to the public is all screenshots of Vince's conversation with this person.
Yes.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm yet to see anything that incriminates Brock Lesnar. And I'm like you, I'm a pragmatic person, and I'm always willing to go innocent until proven guilty. I just think Triple H has been really honest with us and said that Cena asked for him as part of his tour, and
Cena's flipped it back and said
Cena deserves
Cena's
to get
it back.
What he. Of course he has. Of course Cena's. I would flip it fucking back as well. I don't want to be the guy that's responsible for that if it goes belly up. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's important that we recognise his contribution to wrestling, and currently right now he has done nothing wrong by law. And I don't know what it's like in the States, but here it's prominent, mostly in football, where careers can potentially be ruined on this is an accusation. You get taken away for years and years, and then it ends up again a really messy road. I think they just need to be really careful about what they do with Brock Lesnar on his return. We spoke about it earlier. You cannot make that guy the face of your company right now in the midst of all that's going on.
No, you've got to look at the guy, Odyssey Jones.
100%.
He had
he got not guilty.
Allegations of domestic abuse, and he was removed straight away and fired, and then he was found not guilty. Now, again, not being black and white, there's not guilty in a court of law, and there is the balance probabilities, which obviously a lesser degree. He could have been doing stuff he should have been doing, but they couldn't prove it in court. WWE might have satisfied themselves that contractually they could get out of it, and perhaps, I don't know, but
such a high-profile case with such a high-profile name as Brock Lesnar, you'd need to be certain. And there's
a reason I mentioned the Hulk Hogan thing. That's like, if you're in your early 20s and you're on X and you're saying that man should never go on that show, I'm not the type of person that's going to sit there and say yes, he should. Here's why: because you don't have a connection to him as a wrestler or a performer, as a person, whereas other people do. So they like, it's very, very easy for us to sit here and say, until he's proven guilty or he's actually found guilty or something, or charged with something or whatever, then he should be allowed to crack on with his life.
We talk about it like, I've never been a believer that Hogan shouldn't have been on the shows because of the incident with his daughter's boyfriend. That's not why I believe that he shouldn't have been on shows. I think he shouldn't have been on shows because he's erratic now, or was rather, and it was very political towards the end of his run as well, and I just don't think there's any place for it, because the whole joy of wrestling is suspension of reality. That's the whole point. And like all the stuff right now with Trump and making America fit again, and I know that TKO is a public corporation that operates in the real world, like I get that, but I don't tune in on a Monday night or a Saturday and Sunday night to watch Triple H shake hands with Donald fucking Trump. I'm watching it because I want to see wrestling. I want to see stories. I'm not interested in what you do outside of the ring in that capacity. So there's got to be an element of that as well. If you've not got an outstanding suit against you, there's nothing that points in your legal team that this guy could be guilty of something. We need to suspend reality and allow him to be a performer until such times as that exists.
Because it's, and again, you've got to, there has to be a threshold somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're setting the threshold where some people think the threshold should be, any time you were asked by the post to answer a question, you'd lose your job. It's kind of what, that's a very extreme example, but that's kind of how sometimes the conversations feel. Like I said, the generation before us idolised Hulk Hogan, and that made the last few weeks very difficult for a lot of people. For all intents and purposes, like The Rock, I'm probably quite lucky that The Rock had quite a short career before he went to Hollywood, because the guy is clearly a dick. It turned out that he's a total dick and potentially treats people a bit like shit, but it's not come out. He's got a great team in about him, but it's clear that he's a bit of a knob. And we're just lucky that we've then hung our hats on John Cena, who's been the model, again, not without controversy, because we know that he was part of an affair with Swap and another couple in the locker room 20 odd years ago.
Yep.
We don't choose to ignore that, but
in a wrestling capacity, we do.
Bellas as well. Aye, and in Total Bellas, he wasn't necessarily particularly that nice to Nikki Bella, and people choose to look past that. I don't. I just choose to focus on wrestling. That's why we're doing this podcast. And then people coming after us, I'm not going to look past it. And I don't know. It's a tough one.
I feel
as though we've now spent too long on it, and I feel as though
there's only one more angle I want to give people, is that Ross, who obviously isn't with us tonight, is wholeheartedly against Lesnar being a part of this. But the difference, and this is the point we're trying to drive, is that Ross wasn't brought up in the product with Lesnar in it. He never watched this guy as a young kid and fell in love with wrestling around about that time. He wasn't watching it every week. And not to say that would make anything that Lesnar has or hasn't done wrong. We can look past that just because it's a guy we grew up watching. It's just that to see the guy return after being away for so long, for a guy who means so much to you as like your inner child, it's hard not to get excited about that. Me being an older head now that I am, that's why I was shocked. I thought, are we really taking such a gamble on this guy? But the more I've thought about it, I don't think it is a gamble.
$1 billion company, it can't be a gamble. They've had his last match was 2 years ago at Summerslam. For 2 years to satisfy themselves. But I do understand the morality aspect that he was mentioned. Some of what is alleged that he was mentioned to do was nasty, but as far as the claims suggest that it was Vince saying this was going to happen, I don't want to talk about the case, because...
And I think, to be honest, you're right, we have spent too long talking about it.
But I'm happy to talk about it because it's so important.
Happy that he returned. I was happy to see him.
And I hope
in that
Disney
capacity
being happy about it.
And I'm a man of my word. If it comes out that he's guilty of something, and the first thing I hope the industry does is remove him entirely. Merch, everything, bin him off. There's no place for him in this day and age. But also that the company should be transparent about how they made the decision to bring him back. And if I look at that and I feel like they were taking a big risk and bringing him back beyond publicity, I will wash my hands until the current regime are no longer the regime that runs the company.
What's really interesting, Daz, though, and what's really interesting about that is that Daniel Cormier in the UFC, didn't he? Like last weekend was talking about how Lesnar was on a ban list. So TKO, it would appear, have used their wider organisation to throw people off the scent, which means it's not just WWE, the TKO board have satisfied themselves. Like, it would sour the UFC as well as WWE if it came out that they'd taken a huge risk. And it makes it, I'm not saying it's not a risk at all, but like there's a tolerable risk event. Like, we're at this level and we're content that
we'll
clear,
get so much negative publicity about this, but we're confident that we're sticking by the right guy. Only time will tell if that's the right thing to do.
Aye. It's a shame that we've had to finish on that, but it was the last thing that happened.
Well, listen, it made it an all-time.
John Cena's the greatest of all time. That's it. John Cena's the greatest of all time, and I'm not ready for this to end. But he should go out like this. He should go out with the hits, and he should go out with the best match he's put on in a long, long time. And arguably, as I say, that to me, that was my favourite professional wrestling match of all time. Daz, any closing remarks for the end of the podcast?
No. The only thing I want to say in closing is that I am so happy to be this passionate about wrestling again. And yes, this podcast has helped with that, but it fell in at the perfect time for John Cena's retirement tour. I'm similar to you. I am overjoyed for the guy, even though he dropped the title at the weekend. You could see it in his face, the emotion running through him, that this is the last time he'll ever do that. He'll ever put on a match of that caliber. He'll ever get to be in that spot again. And yeah, I can't wait to see how they book out his last 4 months. And I suppose we'll just need to strap in for the ride.
Aye, and apologies to Ross, who's going to get the Buzzsprout bill for the overrun again this month, because that's an hour and 40, but I feel like we had to address the Lesnar situation anyway, because
there's no point
in just burying it, and we're not burying it. Where I think the correct term is we're conflicted on a purely nostalgic wrestling basis. It's like, yes, Lesnar's back. On the other side, things are like, they didn't need him, so it's conflicted. But what a fucking card that was at the weekend. And John Cena is the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and that's how I'm ending it. Take it easy, everybody, and we'll catch you next week. I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.